an interesting thing happened to me about 20 minutes ago or so. I was just like farting around on Twitch, Twitter, and all this shit. So I bumble around streams from time to time, and one guy that you'll see in the Twitch PlanetSide 2 directory a lot of the time, especially early morning, is an older dude. His name is Bean of Fury, and he is like seems to be streaming. He streams pretty much, I guess, almost every day in the morning. So as I do, I go in there, I talk with him sometimes, and this morning I just so happened to go in and just out of the blue, like completely randomly, I was in there and there was a conversation in the in-game voice chat going on between two members of the squad, and it's something I don't really necessarily think I've talked about on the channel, but yeah, let's hear what happens.
I love the chain gun though.
Okay, so there's a little bit before this where a guy is complaining about getting killed by the lasher, or someone was shooting a lasher at him and he ended up dying to something else, and he was complaining about the lasher. And this is going to go real quickly into some single faction role player, awful sub 1 KD player, mental gymnastics. So
nobody, if you ever go on the other factions, nobody ever complains about the chain gun. We all complain about the lasher. So does NC. That's how I know it's true, is because it's like totally different people and totally different factions complain about the same things on VS. And nobody complains about almost anything on TR. They might complain about the King Snake a little bit. Like, King Snake's pretty good, but that's about it. Like, there's not really much else on TR that anybody goes,
yeah, you
like,
can see
oh,
where
look
this
out,
is
he's
going.
got the thing. Nobody cares. Like, all the TR weapons are pretty mediocre. For most players.
But as I say, it's only like, no offense, shitters who like complain about like the VS being OP, and it's a meme to everyone else.
I know it is, but I know and you're the kind of player that is in that bracket, and the people that complain about that. But I think that they don't understand the big picture, because they're to them it's no big deal, because they don't get stuff out in the alert. All they care about is their stat padding, stat gain, and to them, yeah, Vanden's trash. They're like, what are you complaining about? Well, yeah, because they're playing a different game. You're playing a different game than I'm playing. You jump between factions.
What is this game at its base? What is this game at its base? It's not color the map sim. It's an FPS.
It is color the map. No, and that's where we disagree. So and that you can play it how you want, but to me, PlanetSide 2 is a tactical MMO FPS. I play the map. I play the tactical part of the game, and so to me, the balance issue is the part that affects that part of the game.
Okay, so I wanted to let it go for a little bit. And this is probably one of the more popular topics in the zeitgeist of the entire history of the game. Is it comes to the opinions of bad players, who in this case Caudil Avenger is a shitty player that plays the map. He sits in a Zerg 24/7 and rolls down lattice lanes and won't ever think anything of it, until at some point he's been farmed so hard over the years and shit on absolutely by good players who just so happen to be playing VS. We'll get into the reasons why that's the case. That his experience and his PlanetSide 2 story is similar in a lot of ways to a lot of other awful, shitty FPS players. Now, make no mistake, Caudil is a shitty FPS player. And the unfortunate reality sets in for these people when they play this game. Because as you just heard him say, he has to separate the game from being an FPS game into whatever he called it, a tactical, literally... The jokes write themselves, ladies and gentlemen. A tactical military role sim, role-playing fucking MMO. That's... Whenever you hear someone have to go to that level to define what the game is, you are talking with someone... When someone says that, 99.99999% of the time, That is a defense mechanism that they have grown into over the years to excuse the reason why they suck dick at playing a shooter game. Okay? If any of you guys have ever seen the thousands of threads and the countless fucking arguments that have always been the case, that I will tell you from personal experience, that is why they say that. Anyone who can actually play an FPS game or has gotten over time adapted to what this game is in terms of FPS and, you know, moving around the map, capturing bases, you will never, ever, ever hear a competent player or a decent player say something like that. And these guys know it too, right? Like this guy, he talks about strawmen and all this other bullshit and circular logic later. But these people are so intellectually dishonest. The people that are so intellectually dishonest that they go to the point of trying to reimagine what the game is in order to fit their little fucking idea of trying to make it and force it so that what they're doing doesn't make them look shit. Because when you get down to basics, if you're shit at FPS games and you're playing an FPS game, it's really apparent and obvious that you're shit at the game, right? So how do you get around that? Well, it's not, wait, I got it. I'm not playing an FPS game. In fact, it's something completely different, and I'm going to tack on a bunch of bullshit word vomit onto what the game is to make myself feel better about not being actually competent or even remotely competitive in terms of what we're doing in the game, in the moment to moment. So yeah. So he goes on to say that this other guy in the platoon chat is trying to say, well, yeah, it's what you guys say about the whole VS balance and shit it's all a bunch of bullshit and it's a meme. And Caudill's response to that is, well, it's only a meme to you guys because you guys don't actually care about winning. And for those guys like me who are on a higher plane of intelligence and intellect who are playing the 4D chess version of the game, it's extremely detrimental. The way the game is balanced is extremely detrimental towards shitty players trying to win against overpowered VS equipment. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but that's essentially what he's saying. And that might be true. That might be true in a case where, you know, the way I can understand what he's trying to say, but what he's trying to get at and say is still wrong anyway, okay? So he's going after the guy who's kind of like calling him out for that as being bullshit and saying that you guys don't care about winning the alert. All you guys care about is farming your stats, stat padding, which that's always an accusation from people who, like, if you walk into a base, like the other morning I walked into a fucking, I was on TR, by the way. I walked into a base and no, I wasn't. I was on via overpowered. Yeah, I was playing overpowered VS. Okay, yeah, I was playing overpowered VS against the incredibly mediocre TR arsenal. And I walked into this base and I killed, I think, 51 players in like, I don't know, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I'm just farming these people, right? And I guess it might have been a squad of like 7 or 8 guys. And they're getting mad. One guy's calling me a wall hacker and a cheater, of course, because these people have never seen an actual good player in the game because no actual good players play the game anymore. And it's like, if you look on my kill board, it's just me killing the same 8 or 9 guys over and over again. I think there might have been 2 other guys with me. So it's like a 3v9 or 10 or something like that. And yeah, to awful players like Caudill, if he looks at my kill board and he sees me killing the same, I don't know, half a dozen people 50 times, that's stat padding. Is it though? Because am I padding my stats by going to a fight and killing people? It's not like there was a guy on this morning who was actually padding kills, like sitting in the corner of the map with a T9 carve killing some guy it's like 100 fucking plus times in a row, and you can see it on Fizzu. There's a guy that's like 111 and oh, what the fuck is he doing? And then you go look at his kill board, and he's killed the same fucking guy 111 times in a row in quick succession. That's stat padding. When a competent player goes into a base and kills a bunch of shitters, yeah, that's not padding stats. That's what shitters like this guy who cannot achieve. This has always been. It's in every game too. Battlefield players do this. Any player that these shitters see go in and kill a bunch of players, it's never about the player who's doing the killing. It's always about, oh, those guys are so bad. Oh, you're padding your stats against lesser players. It's like, well, you go do it. I don't see you doing it. Like, could Caudil go to a base that's getting that, like, with maybe one or two other people and kill fucking 50 of them in 10 minutes? No, he could never do that. But when I do it, or when another player does it, oh, that's you're padding your stats. Or when you're, God forbid, you're playing prime time and you fucking log out because all the fights are gone on your faction and go play. Because these people, another thing these people don't ever do is they're constantly one faction role-playing shitters. And if they do play on other factions, they're just as bad. And it used to be a thing like, all these people that used to cry about the Beetlejuice and shit. I was like, okay, well, make a VS character. Go grind out the Beetlejuice, which will take you fucking forever because you can't kill anyone, and it takes you, I don't know, months to achieve an Araxium. Go unlock the Beetlejuice, and then play with the Beetlejuice for a whole Araxium, and then I'll go compare your stats to all your main weapons on your other faction, and we'll see where they lie. Yeah. The problem with the Beetlejuice, in this particular example, is that it doesn't make shitty players better. And just the fact that you don't have to reload, you could give a shitter a 400-round magazine. God knows what the fuck that, not even a belt, a magazine. A magazine. You could give you could give a shitter a 400-round magazine or a 300-round magazine. And you know what? It doesn't make any fucking difference. Because what guys like Caudil Avenger fail to recognize, and we're going to get more to this when he starts complaining about the VS as a faction as a whole. What he completely removes from the equation, and I think you heard him go in there and say that, is when he was talking about, I go to these other factions and listen to what those people have to say. So I go talk to NC players, I talk to TR players, and they only complain about this. There is an individual player factor in here. And the problem with guys like this is they want to wipe away or absolve themselves of any responsibility for the ability to handle the equipment and the weapons that they're given within the game in terms of balance. So when say, for example, and this is the crux of the whole thing, when VS wins a lot of alerts, right? Then over time, well, you know what? It can't possibly be that I'm bad at the game. It can't possibly be that these players are more organized. And I'll get into explaining why that's the case anyway. It can't possibly be because we don't have any organization, or we're not really as smart as we think we are. We think we're General fucking Patton, but we're actually just brain dead. It can't possibly be that we constantly get outsmarted, outplayed, and we just get beat. It can't possibly be that way. It can't possibly be that the players on our individual factions are just shitters, or the individual people I have in my platoon are not very good players at the game. When it comes to actually getting down and dirty at a fight in a base, and the difference between my squad being able to take that fucking room or lose and get pushed out of the base is, can my first guy win that first gunfight on the guy who's holding an angle on him in an off angle? It's down to the most micro parts of it. And these guys like Caudil Avenger, think only in terms of, they think they're playing fucking, what is it, Europa Universalis or whatever the fuck. I don't know what the fuck. It's a Paradox game, or all the Paradox games. I've played Hearts of Iron for a long time. And the problem I think that you get in here is guys like this, because they are bad at the FPS part of the game, they think that, oh, now I can, it's a different game. I'm playing Hearts of Iron now, and I'm working from a top-down perspective. Yeah, this game has part of that, but the difference between this game and those games is that there is an actual person down on the ground duking it out. You know, in Hearts of Iron, you've got the fucking 3D animated guys standing there fucking, dumbly shooting at each other for a piece of territory, and then that goes. But in this game, there is actual fucking depth to it. There is a micro that goes on below the macro. And for the players, this is some weird thing I see, man, especially with this game, is that the players who are bad at the micro shift their focus fully to the macro and then completely discount what's going on at a micro level. And I think that is a lot of the reason why they come to the conclusions that they do. And it's a reason, it's that separates the players like this guy from someone who's actually a good player that can combine everything together. All right.
It does hard lean towards the FPS aspect. I mean, to take the base, you have to go on the point with your men, like minions, and like shoot dudes off the point. That's like the base.
It's a hard game to design.
But he doesn't. He says, "Well, it's a hard game to design." He's not going to address what this guy said at all. What this guy just said is exactly what I just said. There's a micro part of the game down to the soldier level. And the micro part of the game down to the soldier level matters. And the people that only sit with their head up their ass looking at the macro and painting the map, which this Caudle admits, he declares that this game is a tactical color in the map simulator. Okay, agree to disagree, but when the perfect example of this, guys, is Outfit Wars 1v1. Because you saw these, especially in the first iteration, you saw these people that think and act and talk like Caudle Avenger go and meet up 1v1 against the people that can think on the macro level and play on the macro level, and they can play on the micro level. The fact that those groups and individuals, they've existed all throughout the history of the game. But there's no better or more perfect example than when shitters like this guy come up to actual players who can demonstrate what you can do when you have an outfit or just even a platoon of actual real players with an actual real strategy. It completely wipes the floor with these morons, these shitters that completely discount the micro and actually playing the FPS portion of the game. There's no better example of that. So I don't even know why. I don't know why guys like this still try to make this argument. It's really been like mega debunked. And Outfit Wars 1v1 was like one of the biggest fucking massive debunkers of this mindset in theory. It's why shitter outfit leaders like Zealous got so mad and so angry at the beginning when they knew they were going to be forced to get exposed as to their entire theory of how the game works is dog shit. That's why they were so angry, and that's why they don't participate.
About what I say. The VS have the highest alert win percentage on every server and have had for a long time.
Okay, so I have to talk about this from the perspective of I have always played on Matherson and Emerald. Okay, so I've played on Connery briefly with a couple friends, but I've never been a part of that culture. My culture has always been involved with the East Coast United States servers, okay? And I'll give you a little bit of the history of what's happened with those fucking outfits, okay? So I'm going to skip like the extremely early shit, but what came out of the extremely early part of the game and shit is that for whatever reason, on Matherson, I'm not really sure about Waterson, but I think it was partially the case. I think it was partially the case on Connery too, but wasn't playing at that point on Connery at all ever. But what ended up coming out, I don't know why this was the case, but VS always tended to be in world population the lowest population faction. I'm talking mostly like 20. You'd see like 27, 28, 29% in prime time and shit like that. And there were people that had played VS from the beginning, specific outfits and stuff. And when you are put in a position to be in that type of population, because mostly everybody that came to the game played fucking TR and NC, myself included. When you're in a position where you have to make do with less, I don't care how bad the players are, eventually over time, your tactics, your strategies, your strategic elasticity has to develop to a point where you are, you've been forced to do more with less in order to fight more pop all the time, right? And you have to adapt to that if you want to win. Whereas the factions that have, like, the most pop faction all the time, they just, mostly those people just try to bludgeon you with population. So yeah, those people that came up in those times, and if you read the actual, like, testimonials of people who played VS early on, that's what they were up against. They were always under pop. A lot of the time they got double teamed, and it made them better. And over time, you saw, I'm a perfect example of this. I was a TR main. I played mostly in the Enclave when it was at its height, and it was a Zerg fit, a fucking outfit of Culture of Personality for Buzz. And after that, shortly after that, it got to the point where I started playing with the better players on the faction, and we were all, there was like two. It was like Exoc, which was like DATR alts, and then SVO, which is what I was in. It was with Vengeance D and a bunch of other guys and me. And from that, I got poached. When I really started to want to try and get better at the game and improve, I opened up a personal correspondence with Vizzy, and we became friends, and I ended up joining AC on VS, and they all played on VS. But at the same time, we in that outfit, which made us a little bit different, very similar to DA, and the way things went on historically, like in the future, the way people play. But other outfits that were on VS, like the mainstays of it all, like your ATs and your Gokus and stuff, those people had alts, but they didn't really flick around and play them. They pretty much had main factions. Whereas we would go and just play whatever faction had fights, even though like our main faction was VS, but in day-to-day play sessions, it didn't really matter. So yeah, you go there because as you're trying to get better and as you start to improve, you end up not wanting to play with shitters, because shitters that you're playing around that are unreliable make the game not fun to play, and you have less fun playing the game when you're. This is why good players don't want to play with shitters. When you're improving and you're a good and better player, you tend to find the things that shitters want to do, because I've seen this a lot of times from my friends that I talk to now with this game, is that they get bored of what their shitter friends are doing in the game because it's just not interesting to them anymore. Because the things that are interesting to shitters who can't play the game are different from people who can play the game and want to go fight people. Most of these people don't want to fight anybody because fighting people in this game reminds them that they're shit at FPS games. So guys like Caudil Avenger. Caudil Avenger is shit at FPS games, and he probably gets frustrated really easily by that fact, because he's a person, if you go look up his stats, he doesn't headshot anybody. And you can't get away with being remotely competent in this game if you want to run around and shoot everybody in the dick. You're not gonna have success. Now, Rel's tried to make it not that way, but ultimately he failed at that. So the VS outfits were coordinated and small. Like most of the people, like you had Zaps and AC, DA, AT, fucking Goku. I'm sure there's like a half a dozen more, but we're always dealing with less people. But the difference is our players are like actually literally between 2 and 3 or 4 times a single TR soldier or a single NC soldier. And it lasted like that for a long time. And then, I mean, I guess it's a natural experience to be, you're a shitter at the game, and you're getting shit on by the same gun and from the same people that are running the same factions. Not even getting into the part where shitters still don't understand why VS heavies run the Orion and the fucking Beetlejuice. It's like, again, I mentioned this in one of my videos, in one of the QA questions yesterday, is shitters don't care about balance. They don't care about balance because they don't understand it. They don't know what any of the stats are. They don't know anything about how the game works, except what they see on the screen and what's killing them. So when they get farmed over and fucking over again by the same thing, they obviously think it must be overpowered. It must be overpowered because, as I said 100,000 times before, they only see what's in front of them. They do not see or notice or understand anything from the tip of the barrel of their gun to their fucking brainstem. They don't understand anything going on there. Everything else in the game is an outside factor that's happening to them. It has nothing to do with how they play. It has nothing to do with whether they're even can fucking stand in the right place or understand how to use the weapons appropriately. It's the shitter victim complex is basically what it is. So then, yeah, you have all these servers where the VS are underplayed for whatever reason over time, because I guess when people come to the game, they see, the Terran, I want to play the red and black faction or the blue freedom faction, and they kind of shied away from the VS spandex gay boy faction or whatever. This is like all like, if you followed threads or discussions about the game in terms of this shit, this is like the oldest fucking story in the book. Okay? One of the oldest stories in the book. How it comes to, what we're doing with populations and how you take small populations and forge them in the fire of being outpopped all the fucking time. And eventually they become really competent at what they have to do, because a lot of these other factions didn't have to bother with that because they always had fresh bodies to just throw at the problem. And VS didn't have that. They didn't have that luxury. And you fast forward the game, 10 years, and it's still kind of running the same way. I will tell you that personally, I end up playing my TR character the most anymore, because that's just tends to be where I find the fights. But I really don't enjoy playing my TR character because the TR players that you have to play around are fucking terrible. The individual ability of an individual TR player that you play around is dog shit. Unless it's someone that is on an alt. It's just like, it's kind of the same thing for NC, but the NC arsenal is so good that it doesn't make that much of a difference. Now the TR guns, I think TR guns are some of my favorite in the game. Like, honestly, I don't think there's anything actually wrong with the TR arsenal. I think it's really good, and every good player I know enjoys playing TR for the guns too. And in fact, we all don't like playing VS because of how bland and just averagey the arsenal is. But as Claudil mentioned earlier, that's just because you play the game to pad your stats and kill people and not for the alert. And there is some truth in that, in terms of the alert thing, because I don't give a fuck about the alert. I don't care. Because it doesn't mean anything. Alerts don't mean anything. There's no permanence to what happens. If alerts actually had some impact on the next alert, or there was something that binds wins together to actually fucking mean something, I think you could have a point there, and you could make the case that alerts matter. But for a lot of people, they don't matter because they just change the map, and no one actually cares. Now, there are people that still log in and play the game to win alerts and shit, and that's cool. If that's what gets you to log in and play the game, awesome. But at the same time, if you're a player that plays like that, you also can't actually make the case that it fucking actually means anything. I guess it could mean something in the scope of we beat this collection of players, and like imagine like an alert was like a single match in another game or something. So we won that match, and I guess sure, but at the end of the day, it's not like there's a ranking system that goes with that. It's just like I don't know, man. It doesn't the way the game is designed and developed, it doesn't lead itself. The closest thing we've ever had to having alerts matter on the live servers is like outside of like qualification for like outfit wars and shit. It was more about like the continent bonus for winning it. That's kind of the closest thing we've ever gotten to that. If the game was actually developed by serious people who weren't fucking idiots, we would probably see some more tangible reason to care about alerts. But for the most part, I think most of the people left playing the game don't give a shit because they don't really mean anything. And if you've lived in an environment where you've built yourself up to think that alerts are the end-all be-all about the game, I mean, I feel sorry for you, honestly, because you're missing out on a way deeper part of the game than just coloring in the map. And that's why I honestly feel bad for guys like Caudal Avenger, because he'll never get better at the game, and he'll never understand. It prevents him from experiencing and having fun in the rest of the game, as he just has to sit being a fucking miserable sub-1 KD shitter who gets to color in the map and cry about other faction balance.
And the lowest pop. So, you know, and the lowest pop.
Well, yeah, that just proves my point even more. Like, they win the most with the
good
lowest
players
pop.
flock towards it like that.
It doesn't prove your point, because again, guys like this completely discount the individual metal of the players that are playing the faction. You know, it's not a regiment on fucking Hearts of Iron. Okay, there's actual people there with actual skills that take actual bases. Yeah, you're not making the point you think you are.
That's circular logic. That's circular logic. To say that they just happen to pick purple because it's the lowest pop? No, dude.
And again, this is a factor. This is something that a shitter like this guy, who spends his entire life sitting in a blob somewhere, doesn't understand that it used to be the case, and was primarily the case, that when you logged into the game, I want to go play the lowest pop faction, because the lowest pop faction, because of how shitty and insecure the players in the game are, the lowest pop faction tended to get double teamed a lot, and VS tended to get double teamed a lot. So what does that mean? Well, that means that I'm going to have more defensive underpops to go to, which are in my estimation the most fun fights to play at. You get to play what is essentially like a horde shooter in a game that can be pretty fun in that. Now, guys like this guy don't understand that because they've never played the game that way, because their ability to play the FPS game minute to minute doesn't allow them to have success in a situation like that. So they would actively avoid a fight like that. If a guy like that goes to the fights that I'm talking about, that better players tend to seek out, he's going to go there and pretty much die to the first person he fights. He's going to run out of the spawn room again, die again. He's going to fucking run out of the spawn room, die again, because he had no idea what to do or how to play the game. He aims poorly and doesn't headshot anybody. So he's going to get frustrated, and either he's going to try to pull a vehicle to go kill the Sunder and kill the fight immediately, or look somewhere else on the map where he can be surrounded by friendlies at all times, so he can actually maybe chip in and help and do something. So that's, yeah.
They picked the...
If you think about it logically.
Yeah, people that are shitters and sit in blobs all day don't understand why good players would want to go play the underpopped faction. They like actually have no clue why someone would do that.
Look, we go towards the lowest pop because they're the lowest pop, and it's best to go to the lowest pop. This is my...
And the lowest population faction had XP bonuses.
Is why I do anyway.
They're not always the lowest
In
pop.
balance. We don't use like shitter weapons like shotguns mostly. Some people do. Even though that would be easy. We don't use like cheese weapons and vehicles because that would be easy. So why would we choose VS because that was easy.
Because it is the easiest to farm turnips. That's why people play it.
Is it though? Do you have a VS character to farm turnips, as you call them, on? I mean, it turns out historically mostly that's... I mean, the bad VS players are just as bad as the worst NC and TR players. There's... PlanetSide players are universally shit at the game. It doesn't matter what faction you are. It doesn't matter what faction you're playing.
Because you have stuff like it.
Okay, again, you because you have stuff like the Beetlejuice that doesn't have to reload.
You can get more kills with, like,
you gotta log on to that.
Weird, I have like pretty similar, almost the same stats on like the main dueling LMGs as I do on the Beetlejuice on the other factions. So it's weird how having a 50-round MSW or a 50-round Anchor magazine doesn't do anything to my performance in relation to having a quote-unquote unlimited magazine on the Beetlejuice. That's weird.
Ask him additional. Time to reinstall.
It's the best on stuff like this. The Beetlejuice for a lot of players, maybe not the very top of the top, but because you don't have any downtime, you don't have to stop. You just have to get behind the corner for a second.
And again, I always want to see, like I mentioned earlier, I would love to see this guy's stats with the Beetlejuice and see if it makes him better.
Rounds do you think
Because most often and a lot of the times, just having the heat mechanic does not make up for all of the other things that a shitter does wrong.
We only speak truth in this channel, Milsim.
Go ahead, but what you're...
Yeah, like the amount of rounds the thingy has, the Beetlejuice has, it's not that many, you know. There's less uptime even for bad players because you don't have to reload. You don't have to reload pictures.
So your assertion is that the VS wins the most on every single server because all the best players on every single server choose that faction because it has the lowest pop on every server. Is that what you're saying?
Mostly that, and also...
Okay, so you're saying that's his assertion. So, Caudil, your assertion is that VS win the vast majority of alerts on every servers because there's not balance in the game, and the individual or everything combined, an amalgamation of all the overpowered stuff VS has keeps the little NC and TR man down. That's what you're asserting. Okay.
So it's, you know, where their friends are.
There's no balance issue with the game. In fact, it's very well balanced. Just totally social.
And this gets to the part where this completely and totally gets to the part where you can't listen to shitters about what is or isn't balanced, because fortunately for Caudil, all the things that he complains about, specifically like the Beetlejuice has been nerfed over and over again. I'm sure this guy complains about Heavy. Heavy's been nerfed over and over again. So where are the results? All this shit that you've complained about over and over again, that's been nerfed over and over again or made to be less good, where's the results, man? Because I see this in a lot of games where the shitters complained about, like earlier on in the game, shitters complained about 0.75 on the SVA and the Orion. Well, and then when the Beetlejuice came out, okay, 0.75 got removed for all those guns. Did that change anything? Are you guys still bad and getting farmed by all those guns? Okay. Oh, heavy shield, original resist shield is overpowered. Okay, well, let's nerf it. Okay, fine. You're still getting farmed by it. What about adrenaline shield? Oh, you're getting too much value. It gives 750 health. We're nerfed that to 450. We got to take away its ability to regenerate by shooting deployables on the ground. Did that. Let's make it not stack with nanoweave anymore. Good, we did that. Okay, let's nerf it by 44%. in the return, but where's the results? I don't know. Because all this shit that you guys have complained about, all this shit that shitters have complained about over the years, it's all been nerfed repeatedly. So what's the issue? Could it possibly be that you're shit at the game, and it never had anything to do with the equipment or the stuff?
I would say to balance a game around people who don't know how to use weapons in a game would be silly because they have no idea about the stats of them, how they work. I would say that's not a good logical play for a game.
Yeah, I mean, there's...
See, and this is a big problem for this game, is that it simultaneously attracts people who can be really good at FPS games, at the same time as simultaneously attracting people who are complete dog shit and will never learn to play the FPS game. But also think their views on a balance account are as informed as the other group of players, which they're clearly and obviously not. And that's been pretty fucking well documented and played out in the history of the game.
Look, man, the good players that were devoted to playing quit the game because they nerfed everything. That's why this fucking game is dying and almost dead. Is because Rel tailored the whole game around what you're talking about. The infantry stat chaser route.
Did you guys know that Rel tailored the whole... This is one of the funniest, like... This is one of the funniest things I hear, is that, like, in this example, Rel specifically tailored the game to players like me. Claudio, why don't you... I know you don't know any actual good players, because why would you? But why don't you ask an actual... Try to ask a player... Ask one of those players if they feel like the game is more tailored to them now. Why don't I ask me, do I feel like the game is more tailored to me now because of Rel's design? I mean, is there any way for you to be more clueless? Like, the stuff about individual balance and crying about faction balance is already enough of a red flag that you're a fucking idiot. But when I constantly see these people come out of the woodwork and say this stupid shit about how good players... First of all, he says good players have quit the game because of what Rel did to it. Yeah, that's true. The first part of it's true. But then he follows that up in the next sentence by saying Rel catered the game to infantry stat pattern players. Can you tell me which patch that was? Because you guys say this. You guys constantly fucking say this. Okay? My question to you is, what patch was that? Can you give me some patch notes for that? Because everything, as a self-describing player that this guy's talking about here, everything that I have asked for or wanted for a long time has pretty much been completely fucking ignored, and we have gotten almost the exact opposite of that. So I'm just curious, what version of the Matrix are you living in where Rel is in bed with infantry good players and has changed the game radically in a way that... If that was the fucking, if that was actually the fucking case, all the people that I'm friends with would be logging in and playing the game today, right now. And you know what? They aren't. They're all fucking gone. So, no. You're wrong, and you guys have to give me the patch notes, or you have to have some explanation for this, because I keep over time seeing people say this, and I don't know why you would say this unless you are just like living in a different version of reality. Like he said earlier, we're playing different games. Yeah. If that's your summary of the Rel era, yeah, we're definitely fucking playing different games, dude.
Someone did pay a lot of people for it.
Heroes around that part of the game, and that's all anybody does is like go farm infantry.
Not only ugly, it's unsustainable.
Sort of self-fulfilling. Pull it together. That has like tortured the game into this form that it was never meant to be. It wasn't this way when Higby designed it. How about that? When Higby was the lead designer, he did not do this to the game.
You know my name? What are you talking about Rel doing to the game that Higby didn't do to the game? Right? Because Higby, people like to suck Higby's dick and say how great Higby was. But I specifically remember when I had my awakening and coming to, the changes they were making to the game were fucking stupid then too. And the things that they were trying to do to the game and put into the game, I disagreed with and thought they were fucking stupid too. But these guys have like this weird nostalgia for Higby that I never had. I don't get it. I know he's a beloved figure, but when it comes to, and there were things that he did better than Rel, but when it comes to game design and working on the game and putting shit in the game, like, what specifically are you talking about where Rel catered? This is the question. What specific design elements did Rel do for the game that Higby didn't or couldn't get to yet? What were those things? I wonder if I would even get a straight answer, if I'm honest.
That's disarming.
Bring things up to the level of others back then, and I kind of prepared that, man. So
and you know why things get nerfed in these games, right, dude? Things in these games get nerfed because, like, the vast majority of things that get nerfed in these games are because shitters nonstop cry about it. You understand that's the case, right? Because when smart, intelligent, good players advocate for getting something nerfed or changed, especially in this game, it almost never, ever fucking happens. And for the most part in other games, in my experience, it might even be as best as a 50-50 proposition. I mean, so if anybody has to blame anybody for the state of the game, it's sub 1 KD dog shit players like you who complain about it. I mean,
I think we agree entirely.
And like, you can't simultaneously say that all the good players have left. How does it make sense that all the good players left, but also all the game is now centered around all the good players? I think you and I probably have different definitions of what makes a good player. Most definitely.
On that, I would say.
I think we should find where Rel lives and hang him from the highest grade.
Jesus Christ. Okay. All right. That's going to end that. I just happened to randomly find that in a chat, and I thought it was interesting. And I don't think I've talked about people crying about VS in general, but yeah. So yeah, this is why I kind of hang out, because there's not really ever much news coming out of the game, but I find some of the conversations, especially some of the older, like really stupid and debunked conversations that keep coming up over time, it's part of the reason why the fundamental fabric and the nature of the game will never change, because shitters like this guy is sitting here leading a platoon arguing with people in squad about you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, man. And this is why the game always has been futureless. So just wanted to bring that one to you. This one popped out of the blue. I just so happened to stumble upon this, and there we go. I hope whatever you guys are doing, you're enjoying yourself, and have a good weekend.